Tsunami alert in many countries following a strong earthquake in Chile. In Japan, an upper house panel passes security bills after much wrangling. And the Shaw Brothers Studios granted Grade 1 historical building status.
Good evening. Tsunami alerts have been issued across the Asia-Pacific region after a magnitude 8.3 earthquake struck just off the coast of Chile, sending powerful waves into its cities. Officials say at least 8 people were killed and dozens were injured, while more than 1 million people were evacuated from their homes. The powerful earthquake struck Chile overnight, causing widespread damage in many parts of the country. The damage to property and infrastructure was most severe near the quake's epicenter. Heavy waves also caused flooding in coastal towns, while power was knocked out in the worst-hit areas. In the capital, Santiago, panicked people could be seen running onto the streets when the tremor struck. Officials said the magnitude 8.3 tremor struck off the coast in central Chile, some 280 kilometers north of Santiago.
8.3 is a large earthquake. It is a very large earthquake. And it is a very serious earthquake to those in the near field in Chile who are experiencing it.
It was the most powerful quake to shake the country since the devastating 2010 tremor, which killed hundreds of people. Indeed, authorities were anxious to avoid the mistakes of 2010, when authorities were slow to warn of an impending tsunami. This time round, they ordered more than 1 million people to evacuate their homes in the most vulnerable areas along the coast. The quake was even felt as far away as Buenos Aires in Argentina, while tsunami alerts were issued throughout the Pacific region, including the west coast of North America, New Zealand and Australia. Chilean President Michelle Bachelet said the government's emergency response was underway, adding she planned to visit the worst-hit areas. Scientists say aftershocks will be a danger in the days ahead and warn this quake could also herald a potentially bigger one.
But the bigger issue, I suppose, is, one earthquake can be fought. This could be a foreshock. There's always that possibility. 1 in 10 earthquakes are big earthquakes, are actually foreshocks of a bigger earthquake. And there can also be other processes, such as landslides, that may happen in a delayed fashion. So usually the wise thing is to be vigilant for a while after one of these events.
The earthquake has also caused economic disruptions, affecting one of the country's key industries, copper mining. Operations were suspended at 2 big copper mines, and copper prices on the London Metal Exchange rose to 2-month highs on worries about supply disruptions.
Controversial security bills that would allow Japanese forces to fight overseas are one step closer to being passed. They were endorsed by an upper house parliamentary committee today. Chaos erupted in the chamber as opposition lawmakers surged towards the committee chairman's seat, protesting against the vote, which they say caught them by surprise. They had sought to delay the vote for much of the day. The bills now go to the upper house of parliament for final approval. There is strong public opposition against Prime Minister Shinzo Abe's move to boost the role of the military. Government critics say it goes against Japan's pacifist post-war constitution.
Next, tension between China and the United States over cybersecurity ahead of President Xi Jinping's landmark visit to America next week. Beijing said it's against online attacks, but stressed it will defend its interests. Meantime, the White House said it wants to prevent the internet from being weaponized. James Wong has more.
1 week before he hosts his visiting Chinese counterpart, U.S. President Barack Obama threw down the gauntlet on cybersecurity.
We understand traditional intelligence gathering functions that all states, including us, engage in. And we will do everything we can to stop you from getting state secrets or transcripts of a meeting that I've had, but we understand you're going to be trying to do that. That is fundamentally different from your government or its proxies engaging directly in industrial espionage and stealing trade secrets, stealing proprietary information from companies. That we consider an act of aggression that has to stop. And
he called for an international framework to prevent the internet from being weaponized. There have been reports that the U.S. does not plan to impose sanctions on Chinese entities for economic cyber attacks ahead of Xi's trip to prevent the issue from overshadowing the visit. In Beijing, Assistant Foreign Minister Jing Zhejuang made clear China is against online attacks and wants to work with the U.S. in cyberspace. The two countries have also locked horns over regional territorial disputes and the battle for Asia-Pacific supremacy.
We have two nations that have interest in the Pacific region, in the Western Pacific, and in Asia generally. Two people can't be dominant at the same time. So I think we'll have to find a way to work with each other, exchange views on the things that trouble us, ask China to tell us more with respect to transparency on their military activities.
Beijing's critics have already made their voices heard before Xi's arrival. Protesters rallied outside the White House yesterday, denouncing what they describe as human rights abuses in Tibet and the crackdown on dissent. Jameson Wong, TVB News.
And staying in the United States, a Muslim schoolboy was arrested and handcuffed in the U.S. state of Texas for bringing to school a homemade clock that his teachers thought was a bomb. No charges were filed against the 14-year-old, but police and school officials were accused of overreacting because of the boy's religion.
I'm the person who built a clock and got in a lot of trouble for it. I built the clock to impress my teacher, but when I showed it to her, she thought it was a threat to her. It's disgusting what I thought would never happen. I thought America was a land where you could be free for whoever you are and not get prejudged or judged about it.
Ahmed plans to transfer out of his suburban Dallas school after the ordeal. There's been an outpouring of support for him on social media. U.S. President Barack Obama has invited the ninth grader to visit the White House. In a tweet, Obama called the clock cool and said more kids like Ahmed should enjoy science.
Nepal's Constituent Assembly overwhelmingly approved a new national constitution yesterday. It's been delayed for years because of differences between the main political parties. The constitution will split Nepal into 7 federal provinces. Some ethnic minority groups disagree with the makeup, borders and size of the provinces. Weeks of sometimes violent demonstrations against the draft in southern Nepal saw 40 people killed. Nepal has had only an interim constitution since pro-democracy protests in 2008 forced then-King Gyanendra to give up his authoritarian rule and turn the country into a republic. The constitution will be formally promulgated by President Rambaranyadev on Sunday.
Some local news now, and the birthplace of many of Hong Kong's greatest film achievements has been granted a Grade 1 historic building status. The Antiquities Advisory Board has decided that the entire site of the Shaw Brothers Studios should receive the top designation. George Silva reports.
Grade 1 historic building status means that a building or structure has outstanding merit and that every effort should be made to preserve it. Today, the Antiquities Advisory Board decided the status should apply to all buildings at the Shaw Brothers Studios site on Clearwater Bay Road. The chairman of the advisory group, Andrew Lamb, explained the decision was reached after gauging public opinion. When it opened in 1961, the Shaw Studios were the largest privately owned film studios in the world. In the ensuing years, its output would delight international audiences with some of the best locally produced films. The site and its buildings eventually fell into decay and changed hands from its original proprietors. Last year, the Town Planning Board approved a private residential and commercial development there. But in March this year, the Antiquities Advisory Board announced its intention to grant the site Grade 1 historical status. The plan faced opposition from private owners who wanted buildings there to be graded individually. After conducting a 1-month public consultation, however, the board decided to stick with its original position. While the Shaw Studios have played a crucial role in taking this city's culture well beyond its borders, it's unlikely that granting them historic grading will be enough to save them. That's because under Hong Kong's heritage conservation rules, only monuments are fully protected from alteration or demolition. Sean De Silva, TVB News.
A court hearing began today on whether businessman Peter Chan should be granted leave to appeal against his guilty verdict and sentence for forging the late tycoon Nina Wang's will. As Evelina Leung reports, Chan's defense counsel argued he didn't get a fair trial in 2013 because of his celebrity status.
The Court of Appeal today heard the case involving the businessman formerly known as Tony Chan. Chan was found guilty in 2013 of forging the late tycoon Nina Wang's will. He was jailed for 12 years. Chan is seeking leave to appeal against both the conviction and sentence. His lawyer, James Wood, pointed out that his client was arrested in 2011 on suspicion of forging Wang's will. The court case was heard in 2013. During that period of time, the case had been widely reported by the media. And it wasn't until 1 month before the hearing began that the court asked the media not to write about it, so as not to affect the jury. Wood argued that was too late. He said Chan became well known to the public before the allegations were made in court, so the jury knew of him and his background and wasn't able to come up with an impartial verdict. Wood also said some of the material evidence should have been omitted from the court case. It included the verdict of the 2011 probate hearing that Chan lost in his bid to win control of Wang's estate. Wood added the testimony that Chan gave during that case should have been omitted as well. He said the jury was already inclined to rule against his client.
The hearing will continue here at the High Court tomorrow, and it is expected to last for 5 days. Evelina Lang, TVB News.
And still ahead on the news tonight. Hungary criticised for its treatment of migrants trying to cross its border. Applications open next month for the Recycling Fund. And details of next month's first ever Hong Kong Cyclothon.
Chef Bobby Chin is in Yunnan, wrestling with some pretty unconventional treatments to boost his strength and vitality.
It's like a meat tenderizer.
Are you okay?
The Chinese have a completely different approach to health and well-being.
Tonight, Evan H. by Franco presents Detox at 9:30 on Pearl's Wellbeing.
Do you know what Wellington is? Oh, thank you.
Dominic is in the land of sheep, hobbits, glowworms, and Maori warriors. Monday, Wild Things with Dominic Monaghan, Season 2 at 9:30 on Pearl.
價值10萬蚊，由澳洲 Sealy 入口嘅 Exquisite 系列床褥，浸身鈦合金 REST 彈簧，讓你享受最豪華嘅舒適承托。澳洲 Sealy Exquisite 系列床褥 ，one of life's luxuries.
The 2016-2017 Pre-Primary Education Voucher Scheme is now open for applications. If your child was born on or before December 31st, 2013 and will attend K1 class in the 2016-2017 school year, you should submit your application from September to November this year. The voucher will also be used for school place registration. Application forms are available at district offices, post offices, the Education Bureau and the Working Family and Student Financial Assistance Agency. For details, please visit the Education Bureau website.
Young couples often start and run their own businesses together. Can a business survive if the relationship ends, or vice versa? Also on Money Magazine, mid-autumn is business gift time, but a company is willing to spend during the stock market slump. Money Magazine, Friday night at 9 on Pearl.
Welcome back to TVB News. Hungarian riot police unleashed tear gas and water cannon against hundreds of refugees who were trying to surge into the country from Serbia. Authorities say hundreds of migrants have been arrested after strict new laws were introduced on Tuesday, including one they describe
as a terrorist. Alan Buckner.